Morning. Whenever you want to get started, people are going to trickle in during it, but let's try to keep somewhat on schedule.
Gotcha, yeah.
Beginning of the
Gotcha.
day. Thank you everybody for being here. I know it's early, but Dr. Chris.
Yeah, so to start us off, we're talking about fan-driven romhacking to enhance and preserve classic video games. My name is Chris Hatala. I run this company now called Games Done Legit. I'll explain kind of like who I am, like what the hell I'm doing here in a minute. I figured first, since we're talking about romhacking, and I thought I would, oh man, kind of full screen right in my aspect ratio there.
Watching everything.
I figured I'd let my friends Rudy and Alice start us off here for about a minute. Oh, it's pretty cool.
Good.
Cool, thanks Rudy and Alice. Yeah, so trying to connect. Hold on, let me swap. Let's do this one. Yeah, so mine, so again, like my name is Chris Hatala. I love especially Phantasy Star. Full screen functionality and everything. Yeah, so, there we go. Sorry, I'm kind of using my laptop, but I don't think I actually connected to the internet. Oh shoot, is this one? How did this one lose connection?
Hard lost connection.
We're offline. Fine, offline, great. Sorry, guys. Trying to connect. No! Internet, my one variable.
For some reason, airplane mode got turned on. That would do it. Probably some other
Oh, shoot.
option key.
Okay, yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, no problem. And with any luck, oh, I see, because if we just hit F11, then it's airplane mode.
Oh no, that's full screen. It's like, so, okay, yeah.
You want a slideshow like that? That help?
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so we'll speed through this real quick. Basically, and I'm recording this, and I'm gonna make the slides available like afterwards if you want it. If anyone knows like the "It's Paul baby" meme, which everyone seems to know, which is weird. It's from the event that I used to run. I used to run this international fighting game tournament called Seasons Beatings. But yeah, it's like I play like DVR competitively. Yeah, I run this I do like corporate entertainment with like video games now. I just like love video games, but you know, just like all you guys really. In 2018, Fantasy Star is one of my favorite games, and I kind of figured that someone by now, like Fantasy Star basically the localizations are all kind of a mess. They all use different terms for the like names of planets and like all kinds of things and names of characters, and it's like very confusing. And Sega just like didn't make like the original like of English localizers play through the games at all, which is like kind of a bummer. So, yeah, so basically it's like, I can't believe like no one's done this yet. Let me, figure out how to like ROM hack, from like scratch basically. And, so yeah, like why, like what's the point of like ROM hacking? Here's how I've like gotten things out of it outside of like the work that I've done. I've discovered like pretty amazing games that have recently been translated into English or basically like made more playable. Like Bulk Slash, if anyone's ever heard of that on Saturn, this is like incredible Saturn 3D. It's like one of the best like examples of like 3D, I think, of like 32-bit, and especially in the Saturn. And like the Spam team dubbed the whole game because there's navigators that you constantly have who are like telling you what to do, and there's just like no way for you to write text. They did this whole like project. So yeah, if you're like a developer, you can learn how classic games work and find really cool stuff like hidden in the code a lot of times. NBA Jam, like Michael Jordan and is like still in the code for like the test builds, and the NBA like made them take out like the Mortal Kombat characters that were like in like test builds at NBA Jam TE. They just leave all the stuff in the code and it's just buried there. So someone 20 years later, took all this stuff out, and now I have like this like amazing NBA Jam hack like on my machine at home.
Just so you know, you've got your document.
What's it?
You've got your document.
Oh, let's go to our other computer then. This will make a lot more sense then, wouldn't it? Yeah, so, oh man, why is this not? You know what, let's just go back to our main one over here, and then I'll, let's see if it was working right. Yeah, so anyway, so, I mean, I think the main question is like, why should fans even like bother fixing other people's like IP in the first place? I think Star Wars is like the easiest example because I didn't mind the special editions that much when they came out, but like every DVD release, like George Lucas keeps making more and more bizarre changes, and that like most of us as fans, especially like slightly like older fans, like really don't like. So it's like I feel like you really can't leave these kind of preservation issues like up to the company who like owns the IP. I think that's the whole point of like these 2 days. But I think like ROM hacking, makes you think about it like a different way. Like I'm sure you know about like the Silent Hill like HD remasters that are terrible, and even like I'm not like a 64 fan, but it's like I've seen like the Nintendo 64 emulator like on the Switch, and like Ocarina is like kind of messed up and things like that. So so it is like a fan imperative, I feel like, to do respect to a lot of these games, especially games that, weren't localized like in your territory originally. And now we have the tools and like the community to kind of like do this stuff. So the how of fan hacking, I always look at, there's so many redundant fan hacks online, and a lot of people are just, most people are just doing it just for fun, which I totally understand. But I always tell people like, hey, see if someone like did this already. See if the tools already exist to start your project, which would have saved me tons of time on mine. See if someone is like willing to work with you on what you want to do. And step 4 is like just get serious about like what is going to be like ahead of you basically, and like how to do that. So I made this pretty like top level. I have no idea like what was common knowledge about like ROM hacking. So some of this is just like very top level. So unfortunately, I had to redo like some of what I was gonna do for this presentation. All kinds of drama in the ROM hacking scene like last week. So this romhacking.net that's been around for like 20 years, the creator basically like shut down the site and was like, it's gonna go like archive only, and things are kind of in flux with like, the ROM hacking scene right now. But as of yesterday, it's still getting new posts. Some other people have like taken the site over, and I guess like wrestle control from this like original creator. So just to have this site like as a resource, it's not just like the hacks that are on the site. This is basically like the HQ of like the internet, like ROM hacking. And it's like it's not just like browsing through hacks or like translations. There's tons and tons of like documented tutorials and tools on even just doing like the most basic like changing palettes in like Mario. It just has like step-by-step on how to like get started with all this kind of stuff. And even, you know, other like hexadecimal, you know, like hacking and things like that is like kind of all on there. Does anyone know a site called CD Romance? Oh, okay, yeah, so I guess if you guys are in this, you might like know them already, which is great. There's like drama, you know, like everything in the ROM hacking scene about, you know, is it okay to have pre-patched, you know, ROMs, like, you know, is it online? Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, you guys hear me okay from here? Okay. Yeah, so, you know, most creators that I interact with at least are fine with having like their work, like on CD Romance, because I just know like, you know, just having the extra step of like having the IPS patch, you know, and like find like the correct, you know, ROM build and like all that stuff, you know, it's like kind of a pain when you just want to try something out. So, you know, I really, and I think a lot of creators, you know, don't like the idea of someone, you know, monetizing, you know, a database like this or having like ads on it and stuff like that. But, you know, just like, you know, what is piracy? Is piracy having a Patreon for working on someone else's IP? Like, you know, this stuff is all getting grayer and grayer, and it's kind of like, you know, you could pretty much get away with whatever, you know, no one's gonna like sue you over. So I, in terms of like legality, like, I've not seen a single ROM hack that like, you know, Nintendo shut down or, you know, like came after like a creator or something like that. Like, obviously there's tons of, you know, canceled, fan projects like the, you know, like the Metroid 2, you know, remake and stuff like that, even like non-commercial stuff. But, I've never seen a ROM hack like get in any kind of like a cease and desist or like any kind of trouble, which kind of is a little bit strange to me, but, you know, I'm glad to see that. And I know like some of the bigger guys who like the Mother 3 translation, you know, they're like, if Nintendo ever finally officially localizes this, you know, we'll remove our, you know, like patch out there, like whatever. Yeah, so, you know, I like, my kind of rule as like a creator is like, I just put in my README, like, you know, don't sell this as like a repro or something like that, which, you know, is another, you know, huge thing. But, you know, I mean, there's not much you could like do about it, really, so. Yeah, and again, kind of, so being kind of more like top level, this article is like a little too much to go through in just like half an hour here. But one of my favorite video game authors, has anyone ever read the Untold Stories of Japanese Game Developers? Book? Yeah, it's a 4 or 5 volume series. It's incredible. It's my favorite piece of like retro gaming, like info or like, I don't know, like physical like memorabilia is not the right word, but anyway, this author, he's an amazing guy. He writes for Time Extension, Retro Gamer, like all these great sites. He chronicled, and he's a journalist, so he did a really nice job of chronicling a basic ROM hack. And he did Tiny Toons, like, you know, so many games had the difficulty messed with, you know, for the American version, because, you know, they were worried about rentals and, like, games being too easy to get in return. So basically he fixed, like, the difficulty passwords, the credits, and he detailed this process in one article here. If it loads. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so, yes, again, it's kind of a lot to, it would be like, just like too much for me to go through, like, on our site here, but I mean, you can see, he chronicles, like, very well, you know, like, the emulator that he used to do this stuff, you know, how they went about, like, finding, like, the credits and things like that, and all the stuff, and, like, a little bit of hexadecimal, and it's very not technical, because he's a journalist. Yeah, so if you're just like interested in like seeing like a proper, you know, like ROM hack, I suppose, that's a good way to go. So, and this is just like, I'll show you a little bit, poke around with my project. So mine was like pretty easy because if there's like, I'm not like a programmer and I'm not a developer, so I don't really know like what's common knowledge with this stuff or not. But I found out that like, so Genesis games have a couple different kinds of compression that could be used, and they've all been cracked. So it's basically like, for me, all the hard work was done already. So this dude in Italy used these different encryptions in Phantasy Star, Phantasy Star 4, actually all of them are disassembled. But you get the disassembly, and then this was my editor and I, he was trying to make, like, you can imagine in like the character set for a game like this, there's not a lot of like special characters. So like the French Phantasy Star fan translation needed, oh shoot, what do you call it when you got like in French when you have like the like an accent over a character? Well, you know what I don't know what the term that is, unfortunately, for my French friends, but I think you know like what I'm talking about. Like in English, the word fiancé has like the E with like the mark on it. So there's one instance of like the word fiancé in like in Phantasy Star 4. So we just like got really carried away with this stuff and we're like, oh, can we like add that as a graphic? And it turns out you can, especially with the disassembly. And basically, and I'll show you like the main ASM and like the file structure and everything, but it's basically like you poke around in the stuff and you find out like what you're looking for. So and again, I wasn't sure like the best way to make like a bunch of like numbers and digits on the screen like interesting as like a live demo or anything like that. But just to show you like so this PS4 ASM contains not the script, but so this is the full disassembly as you would just download this from romhacking.net. You can find all the stuff on like romhacking.net, these disassemblies for games and everything. And a disassembly basically means in plain text I can edit kind of like anything in the game. And anything with the semicolon here is just like a note that Lori, 1990, this dude in Italy who created all these disassemblies, so even kind of tells you like before each section, like, oh, this is what this is, like blah blah blah. So for any of these character sets, for instance, if we wanted to add like the fiancé, the E, like the accent, we had to basically make space in the ROM. We had to take something else, like another character out or something like that, and assign it to like $sign and like number. And we only had a set, number of these that we could like work with. So so this character set is defining, and this is all like the buying and selling like in the game. It's like, I'm sure like anyone who's like a developer, I always think of Cypher in the Matrix, who's like, I don't even see the code after a while, I just see like blonde, blue, brunette, with redhead. Like, you work on this stuff forever and you see like, oh, this random string of numbers means like this character's talking and like all that stuff, and you kind of like go crazy with it. I spent like 5 years, I completed this in like under a year, and that was like 1.0, and now I'm on like 8.5. So it just, you can, if you're like, especially if you're me and you're just like obsessed with things, and I have like pretty strong ADHD and stuff I care about, I'm just like really into. They're just like always, every time I go back and play it, it's like, man, like I can't believe I like missed this typo, or I created this one by doing like my last revision. It's pretty much like finished now. And so the main things I wanted to change here, we go to 9:10, right?
9 o'clock, I think.
9 o'clock?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the main reasons I wanted a ROM hack for myself are that each of the classic Phantasy Star games has different proper nouns for like the planets, and Phantasy Star 4 is this amazing game with this huge script that references like the previous games like a ton, and like the character names are wrong, and like all these references are destroyed through the English translation. So I was like, I can't believe like no one's like fixed this thing. It's 2018 and no one's like bothered to do this. And there's a disassembly out, and I can just go in and like literally change the script. So in this disassembly in particular, so I have like tons of different versions. I make like different versions of for people who have different. And I made one with like I call it like my working designs patch, even though there's no like poop jokes or anything like that. Which is, it's just like a writing style. There's a couple lines in it that I considered maybe like editorializing, where people are like, oh, this took me like out of the moment a little bit. So I just ended up making 2 versions of my script, and they're like 99% the same, but like there's one like there's like a reference to like aliens, where it's not like I'm not referencing like pop culture, but like that's where the line came from, and I don't want someone who's like wants like a purist version to be like, well, you got that line from like Jurassic Park, and like be mad about it, leave a bad review or something. So yeah, so for this assembly, like this is all the dialogue and like the whole games, and it's like, it's literally as easy as just, you got a character limit per line, but you know, for me, it's like as long as I don't go into like 47 characters, like past this line, you know, the line is gonna fit in the game, and like FC means it's gonna appear on the same line, FD means it's a new line, and these strings down here basically mean like, that's keying off an event. So you can go in the ASM here and find like all these like location tags, and so it's pretty amazing. There's another hack for Phantasy Star 4 that is like changing like the actual like acting, like, you know, the characters lining up in cutscenes and like all that stuff with a, you know, very different script. But yeah, basically this stuff's a lot of fun, and I kind of like tell everybody, like, if I can find something to do in it, who, you know, I've always done an aversion to like programming, and I just need to like work on it and like see the results kind of immediately. It's just how my brain kind of works to like motivate me. And you know, I found this stuff like to be like incredibly fun and like motivating. And generally, it's most communities that I've seen are like, you know, very positive communities. You know, it sucks we have this like, you know, drama right now. But so if anything happens to romhacking.net, romhackplaza.org just kind of like opened up to kind of replace them. It's beyond the scope of this presentation and everything, but I love taking fan hacks and burning them to a real cartridge. And I don't mean like, you know, like Elmo Sesame Street. I'll take like the Japanese like ActRaiser and put like the Aeon Genesis like English translation on it and stuff like that. So it's like not too expensive still to get a lot of these Japanese games, and it's not that much of an initial investment to get like a ROM programmer and like get into the stuff. And I just need the emotional connection to games if I have like a real cartridge. You know, I have EverDrives and stuff like that, of course, but you know, for something I care about, you know, I want to have like a real cartridge. So I found a lot of fun taking these fan hacks and like burning them. And some discords you can find, the romhacking.net discord, I guess, is like kaput, but these are a couple great, the Sega Extreme one is like all the big like ROM hackers doing like Shining Force 3 and like all these cool like Saturn games, like they're all on here. Neo RHDN's a new one. Romhacking.ing is a large one that I actually just found out for this presentation. Some notable ROM hackers and projects. Aeon Genesis is pretty known. My two like favorite people, like two of my favorite people on the internet are Esper Knight and Cargadin. They've done all these they've exposed me to like all these incredible, like especially 32-bit games. Has anyone heard of Project Leica or Lindy Cubed? I don't know, like that old famous PC. Yeah, like me neither, until they translated these into English, and I was like, they just do like the weirdest possible games that like a lot of them like defy genres, and you know, the stuff that like just isn't made anymore, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so we're 8:55 here. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the main stuff. Do you guys have any questions or anything like that? We kind of got off schedule a little bit with our technical stuff here, but that's pretty much the main, I think, stuff I wanted to cover. Oh, I think the only other thing that I meant with like the legality and like the Star Wars stuff. I don't remember who said this quote, but basically like when you create art and release it into the world, like it's no longer like just yours. You know, it's kind of like a shared ownership, and that's why I think like fan hacking is like so great, because we all like, we're doing this because we like love these video games, and most people aren't doing it because they have a Patreon or you know, like whatever. We just like care about these games so much. So yeah, so this is like the, you know, like a final page for you guys. I started a podcast like on fan translations, that have a couple fun episodes, and I did like a full like director's commentary of my own Phantasy Star 4 like retranslation or relocalization or everything like that, and it's got more info on like how I did and everything. Does anyone have any questions or anything about like my project, about like the fan hacking scene in general, about something you want to see like in the code for PS4, like anything?
What are you gonna work on next?
Oh man, like, so Shadowrun was at least one of the last Mega CD games, if not the last, game. So, what holds up a lot of these projects is that, it's like the text compression. Does anyone know like Sega Gaga is like it's my dream to finally play Sega Gaga, which is a Sega game about Sega being a failing video game company. Like, it's a Dreamcast game that the creator made, he proposed it as a joke, and he just like kept making it. So you're fighting against like a fictitious Nintendo and like Sony as like Sega's like failing basically at the end of the Dreamcast era. The text is just like super hard. Like English takes up so much more space than Japanese, so that is like the big problem for a lot of like ROM hacks. It's like fitting enough, to make like coherent sentences. And that was a problem even on like Super Nintendo games and stuff like that. With some of the early translations, you just don't have a lot of space compared to Japanese. So yeah, I'm like working on that, but I mean it's like 2 kids now, so it's like it's tough. But I mean these things, sometimes they're in development for 10, 15, 20 years, and it's like, hey, I waited 20 years to play Sakura Taisen, but I don't care. Like now I'm able to play it, and like they're working on 2, they're working on 3, etc. So people aren't drawing a paycheck, people are just doing it for fun. So it's just fun to be like involved, So yeah, sure.
Let's say I'm teaching a class on this, or have a student group, and I'm just doing a one-off presentation.
Okay, I'm hard to hear. Can you speak up a little, please?
I'm so quiet, I'm sorry. Let's say I'm teaching a class on this, and I have like a one-off exercise with some students. What's a good thing to have them do?
Oh yeah, so like everyone knows Mario, and with Mario, you don't have any like encryption like you do with Genesis games. So you can literally, like, basically if I had like a little bit more time, either I would show like, there was like a Saturn game, like Dark Savior, that I've always wanted to hack, that I would bring up. And you could, basically you bring up the game like in an emulator, and in some of the emulators you can have like like what the game is doing, like in the code, like at the same time.
Yeah.
So like even it's like Saturn emulators can do this now, which is like amazing. So the NES is like by far the easiest thing. You can hack like Mario 1 like in real time basically, like change the colors or change stuff like the text and things like that. And it's basically like really easy to do. You don't have to learn. I mean, you probably don't even have. There's like these tile managers and everything. You don't have to even learn like hexadecimal. It's fun to learn hex. It's like a different skill.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like Mario 1. Everyone knows it, and there's so many. I mean, there's whole websites dedicated to Mario and Metroid and like Mario World hacks, like entire websites just for that game. And Sonic 1 as well, which is probably like the most hacked games. So yeah, you just like Google those, you'll be able to find like how to do it like really easily and find something that would work for you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Have you seen the industry like change their perspective on like fan translations and things? Because I'm thinking of like the Trails team got picked up by Qualcomm to
Oh yeah.
do like the actual localization of those games and stuff, and then Square's like reaching back into their back catalog of like unlocalized games, using some of the work. Just have you seen that shift in perspective? Have you noticed in the community? Is there like momentum there?
Yeah, it's really cool to see people doing fan translations now. Yeah, like Xseed has like hired a bunch of fan translators to like work on some of their games, and it's like there's a lot of drama like associated with that stuff too, because people are like, well, why didn't I get like I worked on this and I'm mad I didn't get like hired to like do it professionally. But yeah, it's especially like smaller. I can't speak to Square, but I mean that's like really great if they're working with any like fans like in any capacity. But yeah, I know for sure like Xseed has like hired fan just translators to even like work on a game that they fan translated and to do like an official version of it. No, I've never seen that like a company like just basically like, hey, we want to buy your fan translation, which makes, I mean, that makes like sense to me. It's like, why not just like pay someone in a lump sum like for the work that they did already? For some reason they don't do that. But yeah, so I've been seeing that, and it's like, it makes you really happy for people who put in all this time, now they can do it like professionally. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
right, I think we're out of time, so thank you again for being here.
Thank you for coming. This will be another week.
Good stuff.
Good. Enjoy your day, guys. And, oh, yeah, yeah, I mean, that's good on my contact info. So, yeah, if you ever need to get a hold of me or if you have any questions, by all means.
Steal this from their computer here.
Thank you, that's best of you.
Oh, it's scary. What's yours on?
Video game packaging, very interesting. Video game packaging. Have designed many of the packages that are here, some in the Hall of Fame, and gonna talk about how packaging is done and the need to preserve them.
Oh, cool. I'm hang out for that. Great.
Wanna sign out?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Fine.
I don't know which one you want, USB.
USB is fine.
Sorry, I know you're-
Yeah, no worries, you're good. It's hard with the early presentation, separates the winning out.
Myself included.
Strong presentation, I assume.
Alpha.
Thanks for coming, guys. Yeah, that's really interesting. Oh, really? Cool.